Tonight, a resolution to boost humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. After days of delays and intense negotiations,
today, this council provided a glimmer of hope.
The UN Security Council moves forward.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza needs to remain at the forefront of our agenda.
The diluted draft that stopped short of calling for a ceasefire. A day of mourning, the shock and grief following a horrific mass shooting.
Absolutely surreal for me as a Czech who's never witnessed an event similar or close to this before.
The brutal killings that have stunned a nation. Plus, retailers revel on the busiest shopping days of the year.
It's crazy, honestly. It's so hard to get in, even just to park.
Canadians spending their way into the holiday season.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. A gruesome landmark today for the Israel-Hamas war. It now sits among the deadliest and most destructive in recent history. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says the death toll has surpassed 20,000. It comes as the UN Security Council adopted a resolution this afternoon calling for more aid to the enclave. After a week of delays, the vote calls for creating the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities, not a full ceasefire, and an increase in humanitarian aid for Gaza. Aid like this, the first pictures of trucks passing through the newly opened Karim Shalom border between Israel and Gaza. The vote coming on the heels of an alarming UN report labeling the hunger crisis in Gaza as catastrophic, warning the risk of famine is increasing each day. And there's new details tonight on the death of an American man believed to be taken hostage with his Canadian wife. CTV's Jill Makashon starts us off.
For nearly 3 months, family and friends didn't know if 73-year-old Gadi Haggai was alive. He was out for a morning walk with his wife Judith in their kibbutz October 7th when the pair was kidnapped. The husband and father has now been confirmed dead by a group helping bring the hostages home. His Israeli-Canadian wife is believed to still be held by Hamas. More than 120 hostages are unaccounted for. Israel's prime minister has said there will be no truce without the return of the captives, and Hamas has ruled out releasing anyone until Israel agrees to a full cessation of aggression.
Please raise their hand.
A ceasefire no one is willing to agree on yet. But today, after days of delays, the UN Security Council voted to boost aid to the Gaza Strip. Russia and the U.S., who both hold veto power, abstained.
We're deeply disappointed, appalled actually, that once again the Council was not able to condemn Hamas's horrific terrorist attack.
The United States has now been able to weave a political minefield where they still support Israel, but they're sending a strong message to them and are lined up with the rest of the world.
The Israeli army released new video Friday from northern Gaza showing what it calls destroyed Hamas infrastructure and large quantities of weapons. This road linking North Gaza to the south has become a highway of misery as families continue to move from refugee camps to the Rafah border amid unrelenting Israeli airstrikes. There's not an area left that has not been bombed, said this man. Our homes have been bombed. Everyone is fleeing. With sickness and starvation taking hold, Israel, which cut off all access to Gaza's borders, is moving some aid in, fulfilling an agreement made with the United States.
Over 300 trucks have already been transferred via Kerem Shalom directly to Gaza.
Humanitarian groups say it just isn't enough.
93% of the population in Gaza is facing catastrophic levels of hunger and food insecurity, causing malnutrition and diseases.
While the UN agreed to work towards a ceasefire, this is not it, and aid agencies will need to find a safe way to deliver that much-needed help. Heather?
CTV's Jill Makashon. Thanks, Jill. Washington is accusing Iran of being deeply involved in the attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. The White House says intelligence from Tehran was critical to Yemen's Houthi militants in targeting the ships. The Houthis say their attacks are in support of Palestinians in Gaza. Iran has denied any involvement. Last week, the U.S. announced a coalition of 20 countries, including Canada, would be involved in protecting commercial ships in the region. The conflict in the Middle East has sparked hundreds of protests across Canada, with several major demonstrations scheduled in Toronto in the coming days. Police are expressing concern about a rise in what they call antagonist behavior.
I do want to be clear. Lawful demonstrations do not include protesting inside privately owned spaces, which includes malls, blocking critical infrastructures such as our highways or our hospitals, or causing disturbances at the expense of other residents and visitors to our city.
The warning comes after several heated confrontations between demonstrators and police at Toronto area shopping malls this week. 3 foreign nationals were among those wounded when a student opened fire at a university in Prague, killing 14 people. Mourners gathered today to pay tribute to the victims as police released body cam video of their response to the rampage as tragedy unfolded. CTV's Creason Ajkate reports.
Hundreds of candles are lit at a memorial at Prague's Charles University in the worst mass shooting in the Czech Republic's history.
I think everyone was just in a state of shock. Again, these things don't happen here.
Newly released body cam videos show the chaotic moments after the gunman opened fire. Heavily armed police entered the university, breaking open doors and searching each classroom to find students, some of them injured hiding under desks, and later guiding them to safety.
I was really shocked, and I tried to check that everybody who I know is from the faculty is okay.
This journalist who recorded this video of the gunman took cover here with the police officer who fired shots at the suspect. He said he tried to distract him as others tried to flee in the streets below. He shot at everything that moved, everything he saw in his line of sight, said the man. The gunman who took his own life while cornered by police was a 24-year-old student at the university. Investigators believe he killed his own father before the shooting rampage. He's also suspected of killing a man and his baby daughter in a forest a week ago in a random attack. Indicators absolutely point to that direction. We're waiting on the test results, says this investigator. Police say the gunman acted alone. He had no criminal record and legally owned 8 guns. They also say he was inspired by 2 similar mass shootings in Russia.
Every country has individuals that are prone for this type of behavior. And in law enforcement, we've got to do our best to be able to respond to it.
Czech police have now boosted security around schools and other public areas, a preventative measure that will stay in place until the new year. Heather.
Creason, thank you. The deadly salmonella outbreak here in Canada has claimed another life. The Public Health Agency of Canada says 7 people have now died and more than 160 are infected in 8 provinces. Quebec is the hardest hit. The outbreak is linked to 2 brands of cantaloupes which were recalled last month. The last big update for the year on the country's economic health showed Canada's GDP remained unchanged for the 3rd consecutive month. In October, the services sector edged up marginally, while real estate, wholesale trade, and manufacturing sectors saw the biggest decline. For those hitting the road this holiday season, gas prices are looking pretty favorable for drivers. On average, the price of fuel has been down 30 cents a litre in December compared to prices in August. CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier is in Edmonton, where prices are especially low.
In today's economy, when you find gas for less than $1 a litre, you line up.
Worth waiting in line for?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have nothing to do anyway, so I can wait. For the cheap gas.
This Edmonton Costco posted a price of 98.9 today, the lowest many have seen in years.
Everybody's interested in getting it at a low price.
Oh, I think this is awesome. 98.9. I wish, if Costco can do it, I'm sure everybody else could come a lot closer than they are.
According to fuel pricing site GasBuddy.com, prices across Canada have been lower in December than they have been for about a year. The average down from nearly $171 in August to around $142. Even in notoriously costly Vancouver, the price at the pump dropped to $1.66 earlier this month, down 8 cents in just a couple of weeks. And in the U.S., gas is also down, so is the price of oil, from more than $93 a barrel in late September to around $74 now.
I really do think it's about the increased production.
This expert says it's an issue of supply and demand. In the winter, people tend to drive less, and with the U.S. pumping out crude at record rates, there is simply a lot of oil and gas out there.
Massive increases in supply, especially from the U.S., and the overall, it's more tangential, but the overall effect of decreased inflation.
Issues that could push prices up in the coming months include the ongoing war in Gaza and threats by Yemen's Houthi militants to disrupt shipping in the Red Sea.
If it gets out of hand anymore, then it's going to not just affect oil, but the price of any sort of traded goods.
Here in Alberta, gas will get a little more expensive when the calendar flips over to 2024. The province put a pause on the gas tax for all of this year, but an extra 9 cents per liter will be added January 1st. Heather.
Bill Fortier in Edmonton. Well, some people are heading out for the holidays. Others are striking off their last-minute shopping lists. And as CTV's Sarah Plowman reports, it was not smooth sailing on one of the busiest shopping days of the year.
The crowds can be an obstacle. Today, another hurdle. At stores across Canada, credit and debit machines went down. That meant cash only.
A few customers left because they were a little upset.
Karen Stevens was in line when she noticed.
Everybody in front of me could not use their cards. I could not use my card, so I ended up having to pay cash.
Payments processing company Moneris says it experienced a network outage affecting customers' ability to process transactions. The issue has been identified and resolved.
2 o'clock, I think, we went down, and it was back up around 4:30.
Bad timing for what Interact had predicted would be the busiest shopping day of the year. Across the country, procrastinators are out in full force.
I have about 14 people left to buy for, so.
Left it to the last minute as usual, so.
Some browse, while others are surgical.
So we go directly into the store that we already know we're going to. We hit it and run. And I think we've accomplished our mission today.
But yeah, definitely today and tomorrow, Super Saturday, are massive for retailers, particularly this year, because consumers have been sort of waiting in the weeds for deals.
As costs have climbed, many shoppers are scaling back. In Toronto, this store owner has noticed people are avoiding pricier gifts.
They're still supporting small business, just being a little bit more mindful of how they're spending. A lot of people are kind of value seeking now.
Interact had predicted there would be nearly 28 million transactions today. At this point, it's unclear how this brief outage has affected this. Heather.
All right, Sarah, thank you. And one more business note tonight. A major merger in the banking sector received final approval from Ottawa today. Royal Bank got the okay for its $13.5 billion purchase of HSBC Canada, but there are conditions for RBC. It can't fire any of HSBC Canada's 4,000 employees within 6 months of the closing date. That's increased to 2 years for frontline staff. The deal is expected to close in the first quarter of next year. Coming up, violating accessible transportation.
You are asking someone who doesn't have use of their lower body to get off a plane.
Air Canada fined for failing to assist a passenger in a wheelchair. Plus, trapped in a narrow tunnel, the 20-hour rescue mission. Failing to assist a man in a wheelchair is costing Air Canada nearly $100,000. The airline has a month to request a review for the penalty, but the BC man at the center of the ordeal says his fight is far from over. CTV's Shannon Patterson reports.
When Rodney Hodgins, who uses a wheelchair, was told there was no one from Air Canada to help him off his flight to Las Vegas in August, he was forced to drag himself down the aisle with the help of his wife, Deanna.
It was inhumane. It was awful. It's almost indescribable. You are asking someone who doesn't have use of their lower body to get off a plane. And at that point, we have no choice.
The couple tried to enjoy their anniversary trip to Vegas, but Hodgins, who has cerebral palsy, couldn't shake how he was treated by Air Canada.
So finally, I just got fed up and said, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something.
After he went public, Air Canada apologized to Hodgins and acknowledged it violated the country's disability regulations by not helping him off the plane. And on Thursday, the airline was fined $97,500.
We never thought that they would be fined at all. It's not a lot for them, but for us, I feel like it's a win.
It is a win, yeah, for sure.
Certainly, this fine is in the right ballpark monetarily. It sends the right message.
But there's concern Air Canada was only fined for violating Hodgins' rights because the case got so much attention.
Are we going to see here a trend that serious fines are going to be issued for each time a passenger's right is being violated, or is it just a one-off?
In a statement, Air Canada said, in this case, which arose because of a failure by a third party we used in Las Vegas to assist customers with disabilities, we have hired a new provider who will start early in the new year.
It's not over by a long shot. So we have retained counsel.
Because the Hodgins won't see any of the $97,500 fine, which is paid to the federal government, suing privately is the only way they'll get compensation from Air Canada.
We want them severely penalized, but only because that seems to be the only language they talk.
Their message to the airline, failing passengers with disabilities has consequences, and we'll see you in court. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
A daring cliffside rescue in the U.S. to tell you about tonight. This man was finally freed after falling 15 feet deep inside a narrow hole along the San Diego coast. He had been screaming for help for days before these teenagers heard him.
We were trying to pull him up. Unfortunately, we weren't able to, and at that point we realized just how stuck he was.
Working overnight through lightning and torrential rain, it took more than 20 hours and 150 crew members to bring him to safety. Still ahead, Messi mania. Excitement in Montreal over the chance to see a soccer superstar. Another big name has joined Inter Miami's star-studded lineup in Major League Soccer. Uruguay's Luis Suarez will be playing with Lionel Messi, his former teammate in Barcelona. Messi, of course, is a superstar in his own right, and his trip to Montreal in May is already causing a fan frenzy. CTV's Kelly Gregg reports.
Here it is. Messi!
A record 8 Ballon d'Or.
Messi for the record!
10 La Liga titles. And the defending World Cup champion. Now, Lionel Messi will be making his Canadian debut in Montreal.
It's kind of like having a Beatle, like have Paul McCartney come to Hochelaga Maisonneuve.
The MLS schedule was announced on Wednesday. By today, CF Montreal's ticket department was overloaded.
Thousands, for sure, thousands of calls. It's been absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, on a personal level, a little annoyed of my phone ringing all day for tickets for this.
Miami is already feeling the Messi effect. Ticket prices doubled for next season and still sold out.
They are willing to pay a premium that they would consider outlandish at any other given time. This is almost a sentimental value, something that you'll send to your kid or grandchild when they're very, very young and say, I went to go see Lionel Messi play.
CF Montreal's director of soccer culture, Patrick Leduc, played against World Cup winners.
It's something that you'll always remember. It's a different preparation also. It doesn't feel like a normal game.
And after a year where Montreal struggled, even against Messi, he's still optimistic.
CF Montreal has a good shot at winning that game.
Messi is currently in a 2.5-year contract. At 36 years old, he's had injuries, and there's no guarantee Miami will be back to play in Montreal before the deal is up.
If I call a Lionel Messi game, I'll be happy I can basically retire.
One single game that's already selling CF Montreal's entire season. Kelly Gregg, CTV News, Montreal.
After the break, an unofficial modern holiday.
As soon as I put the tickets on sale, they sell really quickly, and they sell out every year.
The newfound twist to an Atlantic tradition. Holiday cheer will be flowing across Newfoundland and Labrador tomorrow, December 23rd, the day marking Tibb's Eve, considered a sacred tradition, though it looks a little different to everyone. CTV's Garrett Barry explains.
The stage is set at this downtown St. John's bar for one of the most lucrative nights of the year.
As soon as I put the tickets on sale, they sell really quickly, and they sell out every year.
Tibb's Eve, a night to party, catch up with friends, and as local folklore goes, a night to unwind.
The men would get a free pass to go out and have some drinks with their buddies the night before Christmas Eve, so that they were all good and sober for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
The tradition took hold in rural Newfoundland, and this bar is one of the places where this unofficial modern holiday came to town.
We've been doing it now for about 20 years, and it has become a thing.
It used to be much different. Tibb's Eve was known in this province as a day that could never come.
It dates all the way back to the 1600s, when a Tibb was someone of somewhat loose morals. So in plays of the day, a Saint Tibb was kind of an impossible thing.
In some Christian traditions, every saint would get a feast, and the day before every feast was an eve. But no Saint Tibb meant no feast of Tibb, and that meant no Tibb's Eve.
So if I owed you money, I might say, oh, I'll pay you back on Saint Tibb's Eve, meaning you'd probably never ever see that money again.
That old world saying caught on in this province.
A day that might exist somewhere between the old year and the new year. And it over time kind of became associated with the Christmas season somehow.
It's hard to know why exactly December 23rd got picked, but now Tibb's Eve is a real day, and it's all the rage.
I mean, people come dressed now in their ugly shirts and, their ugly Christmas sweaters and stuff like that. So, or the nice headbands or, green and red or whatever. So everyone is in a really good mood. It's a very lovely event.
On this Tibb's Eve, you'll hear music and dancing, holiday cheer, even far away from this province, as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians take this tradition to wherever they roam. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Looks like a fun tradition. That is our newscast for this Friday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow.
This has made you a target.
5 crucial questions to expose the truth.
He made a mistake. That's stunning.
One team uncovers the stories that need to be told. Watch W5, Fridays at 10 on CTV.